This week, I was joined by LG Doucette from the First Mint, and we talked all about the upcoming Sorare MBA project. It was very MBA focused, talking more about the Top Shot community, the Sorare community, everything in between, what we can expect, what sort of problems there could be, what could go well. I hope you enjoy it. Please do subscribe and drop a like wherever you're watching or listening. LG Doucette. I said it right. I pray. I hope.
You did.
Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. You're the founder of the First Mint, which is, I first knew it as a huge kind of Top Shot podcast, but now you talk more generally about NFTs in the world of Web3. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, John. And I want to say right off the bat, like, fantastic work with your show. I've followed you since the early days of the First Mint, looking for other creators in the space. And I will proudly say that you and I are two of the very first podcasts about NFTs. There's a lot now. There's a lot of really fantastic ones, but I think you and I should definitely give ourselves a little bit of OG status, and also a fantastic jersey.
Well, thanks. Great. Yeah. So for anyone who's watching this is mostly listened to, but for anyone watching, I put on a Chicago Bulls counterfeit jersey I got in, I think, Thailand about 10, 15 years ago. Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Is it like rose on the back or something?
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's rose.
D Rose. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, I wanted a Bulls jersey, and it was like 20 quid because it was so counterfeit. And we were sitting here, and I invited you, and I was like, wait a second. I was wearing like an Orlando City soccer top, and I went and was like, I have this. So I went and dug it out, and here we are. I'm showing off the guns on the podcast for the first time.
Man, yeah, careful where you aim those things, man.
I might actually have to do this more often, because when you stream in a little room like this, it gets hot very quick. The PC, the lights, everything else. I could get used to this way of living. Funny side story, speaking of jerseys, this is kind of mad, LG. I was out walking my dog today, and for context, I live in like a suburbs area of like the city, so it's not like it's a lot of footfall. It's not like busy streets. It's a very little quiet kind of neighborhood vibe. And I was walking my dog wearing an Orlando City soccer top, and I was walking past a garden. Now, this is really weird over here. And a guy was wearing the same jersey, like washing his car. Like, that's, I can't tell you how mad that is. I would say like the amount of Orlando City jerseys in Ireland is minimal. And this guy and me wore it on the same day and walked past each other. We both had like a moment where we were like, bro. And he was like, bro. And I was like, no way. And he's like, I can't believe it. I think he took a selfie and all. That's how crazy that was.
Holy shit. That's pretty sweet, man. You guys took a selfie?
He took a selfie. I should have took one.
He took a selfie.
Took that for content.
Did he know? Did he recognize you from TikTok?
No, I'm not quite that famous yet. Someday, yeah. But
you're sure he wasn't like, "Hey, you're the guy who talked about the most expensive pints." Isn't
you're
that
guy? Yeah. Someday, I hope that's the level of like fame I get to someday. You know that, like,
are you sure?
Randomly...
Would you want that though? Would you want that, John? Because I even, when I started and people were like, we had like thousands of listens and people would get really excited. I was like, holy shit! Like, what if this becomes? What if one? Obviously you entertain those possibilities, and it was just like, what if they put me on ESPN one day to talk about Top Shot? Which is like, that's the level, just to give you a sense of the level of euphoria early on for Top Shot that we all thought was going to be. But like, obviously, there's going to be normal sports shows on ESPN about this. But at first I was like, would I want that? Like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to like walk around with people like, hey, you're the guy, like, I don't know if I could ever deal with that. I'm happy to be like known in the NFT like nerd community, but beyond that is like, I don't want to be able to not go to the store or something.
Oh yeah, well, I'm saying, like, I mean, I actually think like the cap of like popularity in this space, like for me anyway, like whatever I do, I don't think it's actually being a household name. I don't think you ever get to that. I don't think you'll be a George Clooney. I don't think you'll be even a CDE list celebrity, but you might get to like P level where the occasional person might recognize you, and that's kind of fun if you're with someone because you feel all important. So I don't mind that. I would hate to actually be famous. It's not going to happen in this stream of life, I don't think. But I mean, if I was actually like an amazing musician or something, I think I would do my tits in. But I've been recognized twice in real life. I got recognized once when I was out drinking. Yeah, I was drinking in Kilkenny, and a guy brought me to a house party. He recognized me from YouTube. And then I got recognized by a guy, Jay Renz, who plays Sorare, who had been in my DMs like a week before. And I was at a West Ham game, and he like tapped me on the shoulder as I was walking around vlogging. Madness.
Wow.
Because I don't have like mad
Wow.
amounts of views. It's very niche,
That
you know.
that is pretty cool, man. I like that a lot. Yeah. No, I think I'd want to be at that same level, like enough so that somebody buys me a pint in a pub,
Yeah, let's
but
milk them.
not like people like George or like Austin Powers level where people chase you around. Like I could
Yeah,
never do that. Like that
that'd be too
I need
much.
to wear if I was like that, I have to wear like a mask out or something like that. You know,
Yeah,
I couldn't handle that. So yeah, that's cool. But that's cool. You've been recognized, man. That's
yeah,
pretty
it's
big.
weird. I really like played up to it in front of like my friends, but I think like you might find you'd get recognized if you went to like basketball games every day. You know, that's where you might get recognized, or if
Right.
NFT conventions or
There at
whatever it is.
conventions definitely, but I don't count that. I don't
Yeah,
count
that's
NFT
different.
conventions. You know,
No,
that's of course like that's but you kind of even at NFT like you know we've been to NFT NYC a few times and NFT LA. There it's like even you're standing at a party and you start talking to someone and they're like, "Hey, my screen name is like I don't know, Big Boy 69 or something." Then you're
yeah,
like, "Oh shit, like I know you from this Discord." And you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
you." Like there's like funny screen names. So it's not you kind of just know a little bit of everybody in those spaces, but
yeah,
yeah. So at conventions, as being one of the only people I would say who's done streams and like kind of shows their face a lot, I've
yeah,
definitely been recognized, but usually by people that I know, like not by people I've never heard of, but like people that I've chatted with on Twitter, and they're like, "Hey, I'm so and so," and I'll be like, "Oh, cool, good to meet you," right? And
yeah.
so it was almost like just kind of internet friends, I'd say, more so that recognized me than
It's it's very funny
streaming
meeting
fans.
internet friends in real life. I've done a couple of like
Oh yeah.
meets where I went over to Orlando, as I mentioned, I went over here. But like in Orlando, there's a guy there, Sean, and you're going like, "Hey," instead of just going, "Hey, Sean," you're going, "Hey, PSU fans too,"
Yeah.
da, 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 or like, "Hey, Trippin' B, where we going, man?"
There you go.
It's just
Yeah,
it's
that's it.
hilarious. But look, we've lots to talk about,
Yeah.
and we're going to be here for probably about another 40 minutes. So we'll actually
Easy.
start chatting about what we're here to talk about, which is Sorare NBA. They've launched this. They haven't launched it quite yet, but they've announced it. We'll hopefully be getting more details very soon about the gameplay, about the scarcity of cards, about how it's all going to work.
Mhm.
But I think there's two things I want to kind of throw at you here and see what you have to say. So first off, I think a lot of us kind of thought we knew that Sorare were going to announce two American sports this year. That's been common knowledge for maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Right.
I think in my head, I kind of had NBA chalked off as not possible because
Right.
the Top Shot exists. But
Yeah.
I was told through the grapevine about 6 months ago, and I said it in the podcast that I was
Mhm.
told that there was a difference in collectible licenses and fantasy licenses.
That's right.
So it seemed improbable, but it's happened.
Mhm.
What were like the honest reactions from your community? And I think like a large theme of this podcast that I want to get across early and just put this out there is, me and all the listeners to this show, we live in a little echo chamber somewhat in our Twitter spaces, in our Discords, and our WhatsApp groups. I kind of want to put this a little bit as like you and the wider NFT slash sports slash Top Shot community and us, because we all have opinions on this, but they
Mhm.
maybe aren't that objective. So what was the honest reaction from you and your community to this? Did anyone care or what?
No, honestly.
Really?
I think it was a little bit of
What?
indifference, John. And I and,
Yeah.
and I'll explain to you because there's a history there. It's not because of So Rare itself. There's a bit more baggage there, but I'll tell you that I think the thing that most people in Top Shot care the most about is Top Shot,
Yeah.
right? It's like they have been through so much, right? Because Top Shot was this like there was a point, at the start of 2021 where it's like there were a few things in like the tech world that were bigger than Top Shot. Like that's how
Yeah.
tens of thousands of people, 100,000 people first got an NFT, right? So it's like that's really significant. And then Top Shot rose up and then crashed super hard. And a lot of people stuck around and were like, you know what, they'll figure it out even if my NFTs are never worth the same. There's still a fantastic product here because the platform is really good. The product is exciting. People love basketball. And everything that's happened since then, it's been a roller coaster of emotion, of communications, of they introduce new supply, people hate it, they do challenges, people love it. It's been a real mixed bag of emotions. So something like, hey, a competing platform has the NBA license as well, and they're going to roll out a similar but somewhat different product. I don't think really worries the core of Top Shot collectors because the ones that are still there, they're not leaving, man. They are
Mhm.
hardcore. They see the long term vision of the product, and they're going to be undeterred by something like that. So Yeah, I think it's like, I think the immediate response, and I had been warned, like maybe an hour before the news broke, somebody messaged me be like, "Hey, this is about to go live. Just so you know, be ready to like comfort your community." And I was like, honestly, my community's not going to care. They're not going to
Yeah.
care because they want to know what's happening with Top Shot. They don't care about what the NBA is doing. And that's also, John, to explain to you, and something I told you the pre-show that I wanted to show you, is that this is not. There has been another NFT project that the NBA has done in
Mm.
between Top Shot and the Sorare announcement. And it's a project that was launched last spring called the Association. And it trades on Ethereum. If you go to OpenSea, you can find it. It's called the Association NBA. And there are these ugly ass trading cards of NBA players that are supposed to basically, like, they're supposed to be like generative, so they evolve as players win trophies. So it's like the Warriors won last year, so Steph Curry was the MVP of the finals or whatever. So now he has like, his card has like a, a crown and like a trophy in it. So it kind of,
Yeah.
the NFTs change. But this was the most random project. You go look at it, it's like, it's literally the players, but what they did is they used the same body template of every player and then just photoshopped a different head and changed the skin tone for each one. Like, it is the laziest, weirdest project. And the NBA put this out at the start of the playoffs last year, and it was incredibly confusing for Top Shot collectors. So they're like, okay, I'm supposed to be collecting Top Shot. Now the NBA is releasing some completely different weird collection. What's going on? So now, flash forward to today, the Sorare announcement, they're like, okay, whatever. Like, we don't know what the hell the NBA is doing. Just let's just focus on Top Shot. So I think that's been the reaction. The secondary reaction is people are really curious, right?
Yeah.
People like playing fantasy. They want to play fantasy. One of the highlights of last season on Top Shot was a fantasy element. They did some like nightly challenges, or a couple times a week they do a challenge. So it'd be something like, for tonight's games, you'll need the 5 players who had the most rebounds tonight. And they'd
Mm.
announce that before the games. And then so you'd have to go out and get whoever you thought were going to collect the most rebounds or assists or points, and so on. And then the next morning, the challenge would close and you had to have them in your collection and submit the challenge and you get a new card or whatever. So there was already like a gamified kind of fantasy element from last season that was introduced. So I think when the Sorare announcement came along, people were like, okay, I like playing fantasy basketball. Maybe I'll go check that out. And I would say that sentiment still holds today, of like a very open mind, because people do like the idea of digital basketball cards, and they want to play.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's very interesting because, I think a lot of us in the Sorare world, to come at it from the other angle, is we've all probably been like, oh my God, we're going to get all the wounded Top Shot people who are all like, you know what I mean? Like, literally looking
Wounded.
at it going like, they've
I've
all.
never heard anybody call the Top Shot community wounded, but
I
it's
think, like, but
not,
like,
you're not
again, from
off.
like our perception, and again, this is relatively blended because we obviously both come from different like little echo chambers, as I keep saying. Where like from our
Absolutely.
perspective, Top Shot is this project that never had like utility. It was
Mm-hmm.
collectability. It was
Mm-hmm.
overproduced. It boomed in the NFT boom and it crashed hard. And how are they ever going to get that back? Because there's no utility. That's how we look at it, because we're so utility driven and so rare with the fantasy game, the winning more cards, the winning Ethereum, the winning jerseys and tickets and all the rest. That when we look at that, we kind of go. I think in many respects we look at it and kind of go like, well, Top Shot's dead now, and So Rare is about to do Top Shot but better. And I know moments are different, and I know there are a million reasons why that might not necessarily be true, but that's kind of maybe just the like blunt, basic opinion of a lot of the community. So we kind of look at that, I think, and go, all these guys and gals who lost a load of money, or maybe didn't lose money, but lost hypothetical money, they haven't maybe sold, so technically they haven't got a loss, blah, blah, blah. They might go, So Rare is like a new Top Shot that we could get in early, play the fantasy game, and over time it could become super collectible as an officially licensed product with defined scarcities and blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. That's kind of, I think,
I
like
think
what our community looks at it as. But
I think your community feels the same way as the Top Shot community.
yeah,
Yeah, I think people are still want to see Top Shot succeed, and they're still worried about their Top Shot bags. But in terms of the over dilution of products, wanting to play fantasy, wanting to win, I think they are the same people. You know
mm,
what I mean? I think they're the same people of very similar goals. And I'll tell you that probably one of the biggest, um, disappointment's the wrong word, because people were able to do this last year with the slight fantasy element on Top Shot. But I'd say bigger picture, one of the bigger disappointments I think on Top Shot has been people not being able to use their NBA knowledge to win. Right.
Mm,
So something like, okay, who's going to be the biggest breakout player of this coming season, right? And can they go collect that person's NFTs? That's it. Doesn't there's it the price doesn't really move that much on Top Shot for something like that because there's too much supply, right?
yeah.
There's too many of them, and then maybe they'll be occasionally used in some of these challenges, but there's not nearly enough of like, if you know who, if you can pick, if you can identify 5 players and 2 teams that are going to really surprise everybody this year, you can do really well. That doesn't really exist on Top Shot,
Yeah.
but it sounds like that exists on Sorare.
100%. It's
Yeah.
like, I think collectability is very much secondary, and I think an interesting thing we'll see in the NBA world, and I think a lot of it will be because a lot of these people will be Top Shot savvy. That if they're NFT savvy, I've just said that word twice, but if they are NFT savvy people who like basketball, there is a high chance they've either came from the Top Shot world or are at least aware of it. And if that's
right.
the case, I think there will be a lot more emphasis on low serial numbers as there are in the Top Shot world. Jersey mints might go for a little bit more compared to like their soccer counterparts. But the big difference again is that utility and that knowledge edge. And if people can come in from the basketball community who genuinely know basketball, who you might be competing with early doors is a bunch of football loving people like me who genuinely don't know basketball, but who know Sorare and want to give it a crack. I'm playing Sorare MLB. I do not know baseball at all. Like, I really don't. And I'm out here buying Ronald Acuna's and Shohei Ohtani's to ping them into a lineup and hope I win something because I believe in the Sorare vision longer term. And I'll be the same with NBA. I'll be going to be okay, who can I get? Give me Ja Morant. Give me Zion Williamson. Give me Giannis, and let's see what happens, baby. But if you really know basketball and you can come in, and it's been happening in MLB, where people who genuinely come in and know their shit, they're coming in and they're not just spunking loads of money at the low serial number superstars. They're buying those more niche guys who have good fixtures or lineup or good whatever. I don't know if you call them fixtures too. I imagine the basketball call them fixtures. Yeah.
No.
So
No.
No, they call them matchups. Something cheesy and American anyway.
But I wouldn't know. I'm Canadian.
I heard the oot, and I kind of knew. But
listen, man, we got that from the UK, from all you guys. Okay, like we're all descendants of whatever. We're all your like weird bastard across the ocean children. Okay, listen, we still have the queen still in the money here. Okay, so it's like we're part of this.
We're
part of the same. Yeah, I'll show you, man.
Oh yeah,
see Canadian money. Sorry, we're on a completely different tangent. Here she is. There she is. There you go.
Is this a new note?
This is
because you'll have the king on it soon.
10 years. This is issued sometime in the last 10 years, I would say. This is our newest money because it has this kind of hologram, like invisible.
So that's not the first mint of the Canadian dollar. See what I did there?
Oh no, it's not. It's not. We have a bunch of weird shit on our money, man. Like we have like people in space. I don't know if you can see that. Our contribution to the space program is something called the Canada Arm, which is just a giant arm that attaches to the International Space Station.
Well, there we go. Anyways, so you're our across the water bastards.
We're in the same pot here in some way.
Yeah, cool. So the point is that people can come in who know basketball and genuinely benefit from basketball knowledge, and you could come in and win your LeBron James with your weird Grizzlies stack or Knicks stack. I don't know, naming teams, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to, John. I do want to ask you actually about since we're talking about all the issues in the Top Shot community. I do want to ask you about the issues in the Sorare community.
Yes,
because I don't know what they are, and I'm sure everybody does have some of these. But I do want to help you guys understand one other problem that probably isn't an unfortunate problem because nobody meant it this way, but that does plague the Top Shot being proper collectibles. Yes, there's an oversupply. Of course, everybody knows that. But even an oversupply, the natural, probably most valuable NFTs or items would be the first ones, right? So even in the card world, right, like a LeBron rookie from 2004 is gonna outpace pretty much any other card he ever has, right? That's normal. And I'm sure, in the football world, it's the same thing, where you have like the original moments of the best players are going to be easily the best ones, right?
Yeah.
In Top Shot, Top Shot was launched just over 2 years ago in mid 2020, and they didn't know if it was going to do well because back then NFTs were this unknown niche part of the blockchain. And what they did to kind of bootstrap it is they invited, because the Dapper who created Top Shot is the same company that created CryptoKitties, if you're familiar with
Mhm.
CryptoKitties from
Yeah.
5 years ago. So they wanted to bootstrap the Top Shot market, and they invited a lot of people from CryptoKitties to be like, hey, do you want to come in and buy some of the first packs we're going to make and kind of test it out for us? And those people did. And in those first few months, which is I joined about 2 years ago today, probably. During that time when I joined, I was a couple months late. A lot of those OGs had bought up a lot of what they considered to be the long-term valuable supply. So the first edition moments, the first issues of LeBron, of all that kind of stuff. And when I mean they soaked up the supply, I mean they bought all of it. Like
Mhm.
they created the market, like a group of maybe 200 people really created the market. And through all of 2020, when I was there, that's the only people that were there. It was like, I'm trading cards with a couple hundred like basketball nerds. Like what's happening? And some of them weren't really basketball nerds, but they were like, this is cool. And then Top Shot exploded. And now you have too much supply, but where not just you have too much supply, but the most valuable supply, the original, the grails, are still in the hands of the original 200 people.
Yeah.
So you kind of have a problem where everybody who's a true basketball fan and who's discovering Top Shot now has never had a chance to collect the most valuable items
Yeah.
because they're locked in the hands of people early on. And those people didn't mean poorly. Like that's normal. Of course, you think this thing's going to be big, buy as much of it as you can.
Yeah.
But that's kind of an issue that plagues. So it's like you want the best LeBron NFT on Top Shot. It's like open your wallet, because that's the only
That's the
way you'll
same.
ever have a chance at it, right? So that's kind of a situation that, as a collectible product, not a fantasy product, not a game, not a gamification, as a collectible, is a bit challenging, honestly, in the Top Shot community.
But that's the same across all collectibles. Surely, if you go into the physical card market, if you want to go and
Absolutely.
buy your Mickey Mantle or whatever, it's open your wallet, and that's the way. I mean, it is one of those, I suppose, that everyone kind of wants to be early in and have the chance to get the most collectible version of the card they want or the player they love. But I think a lot of us are going to come in here now to NBA, Sorare NBA as it is launched, and in those first mints, while the pricing will be super competitive because everyone's going to want the one-offs and the jersey mints.
Mm-hmm.
Outside that, you could get very low mints based on what happened in MLB for probably pretty fair prices. But it is an issue, I think, with like Sorare in general, where there are a bunch of whales who own the best unique cards that are like the strongest cards in the game, and if you genuinely want to come in and compete at the highest level, the really important thing from a fantasy perspective is that progression exists, and the progression needs to be real, and actually there has to be a chance of it. Sorare has really worked on that, where now they have these different tournaments like Underdog and Specialist, where basically with guys who don't perform too well, who are more likely to be budget, you can win the best guys. And what that does is creates more liquidity in the lower ends of the market. And it also means that, you can use that knowledge and target fixtures and pick a guy who no one else has their eyes on because he's in a poor run of form, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And you can just use that knowledge to progress faster. But still, the chances of competing with the guys that were here 3-4 years ago and have the Erling Haaland and uniques and the Kylian Mbappe uniques and the Trent Alexander-Arnold uniques and the best under 23 uniques and the best uniques in the game, the Lionel Messi uniques, you aren't going to be able to compete with that. But I think the way we look at it very much is kind of like, well, it's not gambling and it's not poker. It's a nice analogy. It's an easy analogy where you don't go to play poker if you're skint and you have no money and sit down at the $50-$100 blind table. You sit down at the $1-$2 blind. Do you know? So
Right.
it gets into a much deeper thing about like capitalism and in just society in general,
Right.
where there are always going to be the higher earners who play at higher stakes, who can afford something you can't. And it's about, for Sorare, the important thing I think is that they're really trying to get that free to play across, and they're trying to, with increased scarcities, in like that'll like the increased supply, which should push down the prices. These limited cards, if you want to come into MLB, you can probably field a team for $10-$20,
Right.
and that makes it accessible to the passionate fan. But maybe it is disheartening if an agent like me who's got on early, you just can't compete with me because I got on early.
How does your community feel? How do you guys feel about catering, or does Sorare cater to the highest spenders? Because I know the free to play part is important. Obviously, that's
Mm.
the easiest way to get new people in. So once the NBA thing launches, you'll definitely soak up a lot of Top Shot people and other people that are curious and come in. But how much does Sorare want those people versus they want the people at the $50,000 poker table?
I think Sorare are very, very much so, particularly in the last year, leaning more to the volume over like the lots of smaller spenders as opposed to a few whales. And actually,
Right.
to a point that I wouldn't say it worries me, but I definitely would be considered a whale.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it
Congratulations.
worries me massively. Thanks. Yeah, you got in early.
That's cool.
But yeah, well, I don't know what
Good.
that's the
No, that's
thing.
okay. Good for you.
What's the level to be a whale? That's the question. But I think in our community, I'm
Um,
probably considered one.
no, but I think that most whales are anonymous in crypto, man, and in the world of finance.
Is that
You
because
know
I'm
what I mean?
about to
Like you
get
don't like
robbed?
even in Ethereum and Bitcoin, everyone's like, "Oh, look at this wallet with it has 50,000 bitcoins and it hasn't done anything in 5 years, and now it's doing something." Like, who the fuck
Yeah,
is that? Whereas you, it's like, good if you're a whale and you're a content creator, then it's like, yeah, people want to know what you're doing and they want to hear from you. And if they get
yeah.
any hate towards that, is just jealousy, and that's too bad. But listen, if they keep listening to you, maybe they'll find out how to be a whale for something else too.
But that's the thing. I've been wrong before, but I got into so early enough compared to the bulk of the listenership. There's people who listen to this who got in before me. It is
Mm,
in my head a bit of luck, but the point I'm making here is
mm,
around. I feel like So Rare are trying to get more people in at lower budgets to play at a lower budget game with like the higher scarcity cards, and they're really trying to go down the like more accessible route. I think early the barrier to entry was too high, and when I say it worries me a little bit, it makes me wonder like there's divisions that haven't had massive reward boosts and stuff. And I say that, but today they did boost the rewards in one of the divisions that's kind of higher up the pecking order. Um,
what's a di-
but
oh,
so like
what's a
super
division?
rare cards, so like the
Okay,
super rare division where the blue cards, like in football,
right.
has got a bit of a buff to the rewards, which is great because it very
Mm,
much needed it. I don't even know if it's enough yet to justify truly competing in it, but for a long time, unique the top division has essentially been a closed shop unless you go and dump 30-40 grand in.
right. Okay.
Super rare, you probably could compete a bit better, but it's not quite that budget, but it's still a bit saucy for shit enough rewards for the amount you have to put in. They've buffed them a bit. And then you go
Mm,
into like a hybrid between that and the rare. But the lower divisions,
I
they've
like that.
really been pumping a lot of new rewards in and stuff recently and
Okay.
experimenting massively with that in terms of different ways of
Mm,
playing the game so that it isn't just the best team wins. You have to pick guys where almost like salary caps and stuff where you have guys who can be this good and then guys who aren't this good and then you have to put in a shitter pretty much in every team. They're really toying about with it. But I think like I think So Rare want more people
mhm,
engaged in So Rare rather than
mhm.
less high net worth individuals and a rich
Right.
boys club, which is
Okay.
probably good overall for the platform long term and like just for community. But
It's good if
um,
you're a tech product. That's what you want. You need
yeah,
you need volume of users as a tech product. You need a lot of users using the product every single day. If you're a tech company, that is the ultimate goal. But if you're a company that wants to be a casino, then it's a little bit different. Yeah, you want a lot of people, but actually, I don't know how casinos operate in terms of their big spenders versus the small spenders. John,
yeah,
how much
very.
how much is your Sora collection worth? I
Well, you
need
see,
to
So
ask.
Rare data values it. And again, this isn't necessarily mad whale, but in So Rare terms, this is. I would say, if I say I'm not a whale, people will be at home going, "You are a bloody whale," and I don't think I'm that much of a whale. I'm kind of in between. I'm like a baby whale. I'm like a yeah. Anyway, probably like $250,000.
Fuck. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it kind of like catches up on you. And like for perspective, like that's like not money that I would have had in my life before. And
Yeah.
based off So Rare and all the other things that have spun off it and whatever else, I'm very comfortable having that money there. Because
Mhm.
I almost use it as like I spoke to this last week or 2 weeks ago. I almost use my collection as like an entertainment vehicle to make content,
Mm. Mhm.
hoping that the opportunities come through my content and whatever else. But
Mhm.
um, you mentioned a casino
Congratulations.
there.
That's really cool, man. Hold on. That's amazing. Good for you.
Thanks. Yeah, look,
There's a
hopefully it
point where
doesn't
my
all
Top
crash and
Shot
burn.
collection there's a point where my Top Shot collection was worth $700,000 US, but I didn't do
Oh
much
wow.
about it when it was.
For perspective, like how much is it worth now, or how much did you sell it for, or
um I've kind of
like
I've definitely sold a lot over time. just off like both based on, even obviously there's there's a small conflict there being a creator and
Yeah.
talking about something, but also taking profit, but also but at the same time, I make podcasts where I'm like, you should take profit, like to other people, like you
Yeah.
should take money. But I've also kind of tried to gear my collection towards like what I think is important long term, and also when I want to collect long term. So naturally, I've trimmed the fat on that, but then also created a lot of capital for myself to dabble in other NFTs, and also dabble in other Dapper Labs NFTs. So
Mm.
it was like, when they announced NFL a year ago, I was like, oh shit, I need money for that, and I don't know if
Yeah.
I wanted to like pull more of my own money into it. So I was like, well, I'm gonna, and I think a lot of people in the market did this. So like, I'm gonna sell some stuff to get ready for NFL and then also UFC. So I've built some small bags in those two, but I'd say right now I think my Top Shot collection is probably down to like maybe $40,000 US.
Yeah.
Which is decent, but I like what I have. So, there's no complaints there.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I've taken profit and probably just put it into a lot of other stuff at this point, as NFTs kind of exploded. So, but it's good. I'm happy for people to, I think it's important. I think it's important for everybody to take victories. And very happy to hear about your frothy portfolio.
Well, you see, it's not necessarily a victory yet because I could be
Oh.
sitting in front of the next Top Shot without knowing it, and this could be worth 20 grand next year. But that's the truth,
No,
So,
no, you're not. You guys are engaged. You guys are playing every day. You have divisions. You have clear
yeah,
rules of what the product is. Top Shot doesn't have that, and I'll tell you right now, it's like I have a lot of good friends that work at Top Shot. I become friends with a lot of people at Dapper Labs, and I really like and love a lot of the people there, and they mean really well. But Top Shot has not found its way. It hasn't figured out exactly what the product is going to be. It's going to keep experimenting with a lot of stuff, and they've put that out there. They've said, we're going to keep iterating. We're going to keep trying. Be patient with us. So it hasn't found the clear utility. It hasn't found the clear path to being a top tier collectible product. Whereas Sorare has a very, to me, and you wanted to know how the Top Shot people felt about Sorare. I think a lot of people see it as like it has a very clear defined purpose of how you
yeah,
come and you play and you can win and you can have fun. It feels like it stays in that lane a lot, and
yeah,
that's been the key to its success.
yeah, absolutely. Well, you've mentioned two things in the last sort of 5 minutes. You mentioned, well, I kind of mentioned poker and the gambling thing come up, which is I'm just trying to segue nicely here, and I'm butchering it. So there's the gambling bit, and you also mentioned what Sorare has that Top Shot didn't. Something that
Ooh.
Top Shot has that Sorare doesn't is packs. So
Ah,
Sorare's never went down the pack route.
interesting.
And I think we think that's largely down to circumnavigating gambling regulations globally.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good thing, bad thing? How do you think people would take to that coming into so rare? Do you think a lot of the Top Shot guys would be like, "Where do I buy the packs?" Or do you think they'd like having
Oh, for
the?
sure. Listen, opening a pack is so fun.
I know. I wish for content
Listen.
as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because you don't know what's inside. So you might have the one of one, the rarest thing possible hiding in there. And it
Yeah.
might be the biggest disappointment ever. Like that is, I think I think if there's anything that Dapper and Top Shot and all their products do best in class in all the entire NFT space, it is the pack experience and the pack, the gamification of the packs, the dynamics of the packs. Different now. They have, when they release packs next week, they're releasing classic plays from the 1986-87 season. So with a bunch of like old school like Lakers and Celtics moments, like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and all these old players like that. Patrick Ewing and Dennis Rodman, some other good, Bulls, or at least Rodman being
Yeah.
a good classic Bulls player. They're releasing that, but even for the releases, they have great dynamics of like, okay, we have a certain allotment for people that have a certain score in their collection. So you have a certain
Mm.
amount of moments, you get to potentially get one of these packs, and then it moves down the ladder. So there's definitely like exclusivity of how much you've collected gives you access to a higher chance at getting good packs. And then the actual experience, like the interface, opening them, clicking them one at a time, there's music, is really exciting. And I think that that's like one of the most exciting parts. Like a lot of people struggle to you can keep your packs sealed if you want. And people struggle to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fun dynamics there. They don't have a pack marketplace yet. They've promised it for a very, very, very long time. I saw someone on Twitter when you posted that you're asking for questions. Somebody asked about they had some packs left. That has not rolled out yet. I hope they roll it out soon. I have a lot of packs. I think I have about 30 packs. just sitting in my collection that I don't open. But yeah, the pack part is awesome. People are definitely going to come to Sorare being like, where are the packs at? When is the pack?
Yeah.
When did the packs drop, John? Like that's what
Yeah,
people are
yeah,
going to
yeah.
want to know.
I'm gonna get so
Because people
annoyed.
listen, what's going to happen, John, is people are going to be like, oh, Sorare is launching. I'm going to go sign up. Which podcast do I listen to? And when
Yeah.
do the packs drop? Those are the main questions.
Yeah. So I'm gonna get inundated in my like Twitter DM requests. Where do you get the packs? Oh, you don't get packs. But I see you doing openings of reward. Yeah, I think the closest they get to it is the reward openings where like you win a star rare and it's like, oh,
Right.
this could be exciting. It could be anyone, and then you click into it and
Right.
it reveals. That's exciting.
Okay.
That's the closest we get to packs, but you have to win
That's
that
cool.
and you don't pay for it, because then if you had to pay for it, then you'd be gambling and whatever else. I think in terms of what
It's a
Top Shot.
lottery law. Sorry, just to touch on the legal aspect, it's lottery laws.
Okay.
Because it's essentially a lottery ticket, right? Like lottery tickets work that way. Like even a scratch and win works that way, where it's like you're buying something for $5 and you might win nothing, you might win $2, you might win $10, you might win $1 million,
Yeah.
right? So it's like they had to work around the lottery laws basically, or work with the lottery laws for that.
Why can't Sorare do that, or why haven't Sorare done that?
It might be. I honestly think it might be based on the license.
Yeah,
because it's not just the platform like navigating that, it's the license. And I have no doubt that the Premier League, that the NBA, that every major sports organization has an army of lawyers ready to make sure that they do not cross any legal lines when it comes to gambling.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Something that I think maybe you disagree, but something that from the outside,
Please.
Top Shot seemed to do, and I think it is down to the lack of utility. It seemed that hype had to have came around collectorship or collecting. That's maybe something Sorare hasn't seen so much. A few people like the one-offs go for a little bit more. People do like to get a jersey mint, but it's not like massively overpaying. Maybe in baseball we've seen it a bit more. Is it like how can Sorare promote this culture of collecting better? Like Sorare they like to put themselves out there as this collect your favorite thises and play free to play fantasy, when really behind all that there's a lot of money at play, and most people care about the utility of fantasy more than collecting. Is there like anything Top Shot did that really clearly Sorare can take from that to try and like collecting challenges, or collect X amount to burn it to get this, or is there anything that comes to mind when I throw that at you?
That's a great question. How can they be better at really
Why did
making it feel like a great
people just
collectible
buy
product?
into Top Shot and want to collect? Was it hype? Was it FOMO? Or
So
was there
what happened?
genuine?
What happened at the? So that's a great question. Actually, let's start there. So what happened at the start of Top Shot is, like in terms of the boom, is it caught traction in the fantasy football world and fantasy like American football world, which is a huge universe with a lot of money, and that was towards the end of the NFL season at the time, so like mid January during the playoffs, and I think a lot of those people who are gamblers, fantasy players, spend a lot of money every week doing this stuff. A lot of them cross over with the card collecting world, especially in the US. And those people were like, oh shit. As soon as they saw Top Shot, they were like, this is the future of card collecting. Forget my cardboard collection. Forget I got my new card and I have to send it to a place to get it graded and all that. They're like, forget that. This is exactly the same thing, but I can instantly, it's liquid and I can trade it with anybody in the world, was so much more appealing. And I got tons of DMs, John, from people saying, I'm selling all my cards and I'm putting all that money into Top Shot. And so it drove that hysteria of like, holy shit, this is what the blockchain is meant for. This kind of stuff, authentication of collectibles. So Top Shot at the end of the day was like the battering ram for that idea. And Top Shot also had clear rules for what's most valuable. They were like, this is the base set. This will always be the base set. This is the hologram ones. They had clear parallels with the card collecting world that were very clear. Like, this is the best. This is the best. This is the best. This is the worst. So I think that's what they had. Where it sounds like Sorare has never angled itself as a collectible, and neither has the community. It sounds more like it's been about gamification, but that's more your area.
Yeah, I think early days we always refer to a Gary V boom, which happened on I think Valentine's Day 21, where he tweeted about it and everyone got involved.
I remember that.
And I remember
You
before
called it
that,
Sorare? Is that what you called it?
Sorare,
Yeah.
Mbappe. I want my Mbappe.
Sorare. Sorare.
Sorare
I
Mbappe.
love that.
So
Yeah.
it's before that, a lot of the one-offs and the cereal or the jersey mints, everyone was like, no one really cares, or like, I'll give you a little bit extra for it, but I mean, you're talking like pennies on the dollar. Like people like really don't give a shit that much, but it's kind of nice. Maybe someday this will matter, but it doesn't matter now. Overnight, that seemed to switch, and cereal mints and jersey mints were like flying through the roof. They were going for much more than they'd previously gone for, and then it's kind of died off for a bit. People kind of care, but I don't know. I think like the basketball, because of even it's almost this like self-fulfilling prophecy where I think a lot of us think that all the Top Shot nuts are going to come in and want the low cereals. So we think the low cereals will matter more in the basketball product. Therefore, they will inevitably matter more because we'll all pay
Right.
more for them because we think they matter more. So they will matter more.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
now you're dipping into what Bill Gates thought was so stupid about crypto as the greater fool theory, right? Which is a slippery slope in crypto, right? Is like that somebody else is going to want it more than you do right now, and that's
Mm,
why you're holding it. And that obviously, I'd say a lot of NFTs are like that right now. Not just Top Shot and Sorare. A lot of them are, hey, somebody else is going to want this more for more later.
yeah.
And I don't disagree that it's that way, and that even I feel that way in a lot of cases. So I think for Sorare, but you're touching on something that I think is really good, is something you really to start to prospect on at this point. That if you flash forward a month, the NBA season starts, Sorare launches their product. You have a decent percentage of the Top Shot population coming in to check it out, just look around and see if they like it. I think those I don't know what those people will do. Maybe they'll come for some of the low cereals, but I think they're going to come. They want to. I think just like you guys, they want to come in. They want to use what they know about the NBA to win. That's it.
Yeah.
I think they're like, listen, I know that this year Clint Capella is going to be an absolute beast with rebounds. He's going to be the leader every night. That's probably not true, Clint Capella, but they want to say like, I know that, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to win every night with my lineups or my fixtures, as you call them. And that's what they're going to want to do. And then as they learn the game, maybe some will gravitate towards the more valuable collectible pieces like serial numbers and whatever.
Is there anything we haven't discussed that you think's interesting that you wanted to cover? Other than that, I can
What's
ping a
wrong?
couple of
What's
questions
wrong
for
with
the submitted.
Sorare? What
But
does Sorare suck at? Like, what are people mad about? Because we have a lot of in Top Shot. There's a lot of drama.
mm,
Yesterday, I wrote a Twitter thread about why people are enjoying NFL All Day, which is the fantastically gamified product from the same company for NFL. Why people are enjoying that and why people are struggling with Top Shot, and that caused a lot of controversy. A lot of people didn't like that. And we have a regular dose of drama every week in Top Shot. What's going on in your neck of the woods that pisses people off?
I think the reward structure is the big one. The
Okay.
rewards consistently piss people off. So basically, you build
Hmm.
lineups, you win or don't win divisions. You place somewhere on the leaderboard, and rewards are dished out. The order of which those rewards are dished out is a big bone of contention because players' values are so volatile at times. People can get an
Hmm.
injury. Quite often, maybe not enough rewards are out. I think at the minute, things are getting more competitive. There's more cards over time. Therefore, there's more users. Therefore, if the
Mm,
rewards don't scale with the amount of cards and users, it gets
right.
the percentage chance of winning reduces every day, you could argue, which means that it gets much, much more competitive. There's other issues and all, and people like to buy into the hysteria of certain things and lean into stuff. Before the before the MLB? I'm having no. Recently a big thing we had was Sorare launched like League Two, like a League Two thing where they're now eligible. This basically means in
Mm,
European leagues, the top five leagues,
yeah.
it's like England, Spain, Italy, Germany, and France. They made it that okay. Well, it used to be if a player goes to like the second division of any of those countries, they
Right.
aren't really usable in the so rare game. They're unlicensed now.
Mm,
But
right.
overnight, they essentially
Oh,
changed this
wow.
and said, "Oh, you can use all these now," which is great because it adds more utility, adds more
Right.
prospecting. The problem was that for about 2 or 3 weeks before that, there were a couple of accounts buying up hundreds of thousands worth of these cards to flip into the market. So it was like insider trading essentially. So that
Right.
caused friction. But I think all in all, everyone's very happy. I think the bigger debates are generally around the longer term sustainability of so rare.
Right.
If we're all buying more cards and there's more cards coming and we need more users to buy more cards, to win more cards, to buy more cards, to win more cards, it does look a little bit ropey. But,
How do we keep the pyramid scheme going? Is the main
exactly,
question in
exactly.
NFTs
That's
right
what it
now.
starts to look like. But the difference with Sorare is that there are other revenue streams. They have got huge licenses. They can branch out into all sorts of different things. They do have real world experiences they can give away. And if you can give away things that are priceless, if you can genuinely give away experiences and accessibility to people through those licenses,
right?
And if you can give away cash prizes, that adds yield to it, and as opposed to just cards and cards and cards. I think there's things Sorare can do, and there's things I'm not even touching on now that they can be innovative with.
Right.
I genuinely, I just think there's a lot they can do, so I kind of hold on to that and trust the process. But I think that is a general bigger concern for people.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe if people are listening to this, disagree or have anything else to add, get on us on Twitter.
What is
But
the management like on Sorare?
I
What
think they're solid at the minute.
how vocal are they? Like, how active are they on Twitter, and how much do they connect with the community?
So they used to be very good with communication. They used to put out like regular AMAs, and just ask me anything. You know what an AMA is? Sorry.
I know. I'm on the
Sorry.
internet every day. I know
Sorry.
what that is.
My dad wouldn't know what one is, and neither would like my sister. So I was like, I better
Fucking
clarify
dad, what
this.
is that?
My old cousin LG, he won't know what an AMA is. They don't know what AMAs are in Canada. So anyway, AMAs used to do all that newsletters, and they promised to do this and this and that. And they were very good, and they'd ask them all. But then it got to the point where they couldn't answer probably the 20 most wanted questions. So like they would put out like a forum, everyone would put their questions in, everyone would upvote them or downvote them, and they'd ask the most upvoted ones essentially. Got to the point, I think, where they couldn't actually answer any of them because they weren't allowed to due to ongoing negotiations, or the answers weren't great. So they just kind of stopped. Now, I had the CEO and co-founder Nicola Julia on the podcast in July. That was received really, really well. He was very, very open. He came across really well. And I think in general, people are pretty confident. There's no calling for the heads of anyone. I think people are generally very confident with the team. I think another big concern has been they got that 700 million in funding, and maybe the rate at which they were employing or scaling was getting at people, because they still seemed massively understaffed, but they were looking for quality staff, was their kind of line. And I think maybe now we might start to see the fruits of all that, but it's been a while since it's been about a year now since that 700 million happened, and it feels to have taken some time before we've seen the real, like, you could argue we're still waiting on it to see the true ramifications or whatever of that. But yeah, I think that's about it.
I've always been curious about how these companies deploy those hundreds of millions of dollars.
And they've made hundreds of millions more. So
exactly,
where does all that go?
Exactly.
Well, I think these licenses aren't cheap. The licenses aren't cheap. They've got NBA, MLB, pretty much every major football league apart from the Premier League, the main one. But look, I think that's about all we've time for. LG,
Beauty.
Anything you want to say? Anywhere you want to send people? Anything you want to talk about? Or
the last thing I'll say, John, and I don't know how your community feels about this, and this is not a comment on the Top Shot community or anybody's community, but just more in general, is that like I genuinely hope that there's space for all these products, and there's space for all the communities, and that the communities do cross over, and that they all enjoy this stuff. Like, I think like the whole point of blockchain and NFTs and this being accessible to normal people through sport, to me, is like, it should be fun. It should be fun. It should be a new layer of your sports fandom, or whatever you want to call that. Like, it should add to the experience, and it should be something that's really fun to do, and one that honestly you don't stress about too much. And we're in the very early days there, where I think people get a little, people get really upset about some of this stuff, right? And take stuff really personally. And I hope we can move past a lot of the friction between communities and between, collectors and the people running the project and the content creators and all that. And like, I want all of these projects to do well, right? Like, I want, if the Sorare launches their NBA thing, and even if the Sorare gets an NFL license to do the same thing, great. I hope there's space for all of it. And I hope that there's, I like, the biggest concern for me is like, is there a market for all of that? And how can we all as a community help the people running the projects find that market? Because that's the best outcome for everybody.
Absolutely. I think, it's one of those where I think the competition between these different licenses or the different companies within the space that have the same licenses. I think it's brilliant, but I don't think there necessarily needs to be one winner. I think there could be very different projects that do different yet similar things. But I think a thing we all lose touch with within these communities is we are all crypto / NFT sport lovers who all probably, if you sat us down in a pub, even the troll who you hate, if you actually met them in a bar, you'd be like, oh my God, we have something in common that no one else has in common with me. And it's this little, I've said it about 10 times in this echo chamber, this little niche community that we all build up these little things. The people who hate me the most would probably love me the most if they met me in real life compared to random dicks they meet on a weekend. Do you know? Because we actually love the same thing, and it's very easy to forget. Like behind the screen is just another sport loving NFT person.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's a great message. Absolutely.
Cool. Well, look, if anyone wants to find you on Twitter, I suppose the First Mint.
At the First Mint, or my personal one is at LG Doucette as well. You can hit me up on either. And yeah, John, I hope we get to chat again soon. Whenever the Sorare project launches, we're going to bring you on over to our show, and would definitely love to do some streams together once that's up, so we can kind of collaborate there.
Sounds amazing. All right, see you later.
Okay, cheers, man.
That's it for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more of this, do subscribe, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.